Toxic friendships. How many of you had? I'm going to tell you about one of mine that dates back to 2011. Hi, my name is Alan. I'm an actor and a writer living in New York City with my husband and our 18-year-old cat. Now, back in 2011, I was with a different partner. I was with someone for about 7 years who blindsided me one day and told me that he was done with the relationship and he was moving out. Of course, I was devastated. I found out after the fact that he had been cheating on me, which made it even worse. One day after he had moved out, I was in the hallway taking my trash out to the trash room, and my neighbor from across the hall, who, for purposes of this video, I'm going to call Hortense. That's not her real name, but that name tickles me, so that's who she is in the video. Hortense was bringing her trash out at the same time. She saw that I had been crying, and she said, "My goodness, what's wrong?" And I briefly told her what had happened. And she said, "Please come into my apartment. I'll make you coffee. We'll talk." And so we did go into her apartment and we had about an hour, hour and a half chat. And it was very helpful. I felt really supported. I felt like I was becoming good friends with this person who had, up until that point, only been an acquaintance that I would say hello to in the hallway or in the laundry room. About a week and a half or so later, she called and asked if she could come over and talk to me about a situation. And I said, "Yes, absolutely. I'm home right now. Come on over." And she told me about a friend that she was cutting out of her life because the relationship had gone sour. And I tried to be as present for her as she had been for me. Well, this started a bit of a repetitive cycle. About every 2 to 3 weeks, she would call me and ask me if we could get together and talk. And each time it was because she had a new person in her life that was just making her crazy and she wanted to get rid of them and she wanted to know the best way to tell them off. And I said, well, rather than tell them off, I would just, be kind about it and try and just end the relationship. Well, she didn't want to hear that. She wanted to hear ways that she could really stick it to him. And I began to realize that she had some issues. I should also add that she had been, during her career, a mental health professional for school kids, for junior high, high school kids. Uh, yeah. And one day, after one of our talks, she said, Alan, I just have to tell you, you have totally changed the way that I think about gay people. And I said, oh, well, uh, for the better or for the worse? And she said, no, oh, no, for the better. I never liked gay people until I met you. I thought, okay. And I said, really? Why not? And she said, well, I always thought that and then she listed like a laundry list of, you know, reasons that I don't even remember because I didn't let them occupy my brain. But I thought, okay, this is a mental health person who was dealing with children, and she probably encountered a few that had some questions about their sexuality. So God only knows what she told them. But I let that go. I didn't. I saw it as a little red flag, but I let it go. And then she started to become a little more demanding. I would get a call out of the blue, like on, say, a Friday night, and she'd say, "Alan, I need you to pick me up at LaGuardia tomorrow at noon." And I'd say, "Well, I'm not going to be home tomorrow. I'm actually going to be with friends out in New Jersey. I can't do that." And she'd get kind of angry about that. And little things like that. I was just expected to drop everything. And she would bring up the fact that I sat and we talked about, your breakup, and she kind of threw it back in my face, and I was like, okay, well, that's not really cool, but whatever. Um, the final, well, the beginning of the final straw was I was on the train going into Manhattan one day, and my phone rang, and I saw it was her, so I answered it, and she said, "Alan, I'm having shortness of breath. I need you to take me to the hospital." And I said, "Well, I'm not at home. I'm actually almost in Manhattan. I'm on Metro North, and uh, I'm not there." And she said, "Oh, that's all right. I'll just call one of the neighbors." And I said, "No, call 911 if you're having shortness of breath. That's not something you want to, wait for a neighbor to be available." I said, "Call an ambulance." "No, no, it'll be fine." And I thought, okay, I know if it were me having a symptom like that, I wouldn't even think twice. I'd call 911. After that, she just cut me off. I tried talking to her. I tried asking her, what is going on here? What did I do something? And she just refused to speak about it. I don't want to talk about it right now. We'll find a time to talk later. And so I wrote her an email basically saying, listen, here's my point of view on all of this. If I'm wrong, then let me know. I said, I feel like you're punishing me because I haven't been able to be there on a few last minute things. But she never really would talk to me about it. Fortunately, she did sell her apartment, and the neighbors that we got in her place are fantastic. They've been here for quite a while now. She moved somewhere else in the neighborhood, so I still will occasionally see her on the street. And she has met my husband because he was living here before she moved out. And there will be times when we're walking down the street and we'll see her coming, and she'll duck behind something and hide from us, literally, because she just does not want to confront any of what we had previously. It's baffling to me. And there are times when I still feel just a tiny bit guilty, where I still want the answers, but it's not worth it. So I'm wondering with you, with your toxic friendships, are they still active friendships or are they in the past? How do you deal with them if they're still part of your life? How do you manage that? I just, I would love to know how you took care of it or how you're currently taking care of it. But my husband put it in very good terms. He said, this is not giving you anything. He said, you were there for her. And because you couldn't do a few things that she demanded of you, you were suddenly of no use to her. And he said, that's not a friend. And it's not. It's a toxic relationship. And it's something that I was taught from the time I was very young that I had to sacrifice for everybody else. So I don't want you doing that. I want you to recognize when you're in a toxic situation. So that's my story about Hortense. There are other stories about her. Maybe I'll tell some of those too. I mean, some of them are kind of funny. But I don't want to, we'll see. But anyway, go out, do yourself a favor by doing a random act of kindness for someone. It gives you just as much as it gives them. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. And I will see you on the next one. Until then, have a beautiful day.